Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles podcast on a Monday afternoon. Wulf, Zach Berman, as we turn the page from the blowout loss to the San Francisco 49ers, but we're not going to just push it to the side. We got to talk about everything that happened, how much of it is going to carry over, how much of a concern is it for the Eagles moving forward? Are they destined to be one and done in the playoffs at this point now? But Zach, much to get to, including some roster news. Let's do the show that Zach Berman wants to do. Let's get to the news right away at the top. Stone Cold Newsman, what's going on?
Yeah, the Eagles signed Shaq Leonard to a one-year deal. Agreed to terms with him is the official way of framing it. Shaq Leonard is kind of like an Eagles hero already. Chose them over the Cowboys. Had the choice leading in the Eagles-Cowboys week and chose the Eagles over the Cowboys. Certainly there is a role for him after seeing the way the Eagles linebackers played. There's opportunity there. Now, the Eagles are very careful both in their official messaging and in Nick Sirianni's messaging to frame this as depth.
It's like in the first sentence, like on the subhead of the email that they sent out, like to bolster the depth of the defense.
Yeah, so I think they're trying to play down the fact that Shaq Leonard, I keep saying Darius Leonard. It's Shaq Leonard now. It was once Darius, now Shaq.
Yes, we went through this when we filmed a reaction video before the show, and Julia was looking for a thumbnail, and she's like, I can't find anything for Shaq Leonard. I say, we got to look for Darius.
Yes, so between him and Slay, we have two guys who don't want to be called Darius, right?
There you go. That's a good one. You should use that.
Yeah, I saved my best material for the show.
Okay.
But Shaq Leonard he's as credentialed as you can come there, right? He's
boy, am I jealous.
Three-time All-Pro linebacker. He is someone who's been top of the league. He's only 28. Now, the thing you need to think about is the Colts, who are a playoff team now, right? They've won, 4 in a row? They moved on from him. They didn't just bench him. They let him go. They decided they were a better team without him on the roster than with him on the roster. Now, there are complicating factors there, certainly, when you have a guy who's one of the faces of the franchise, and then it's complicated there. But from the Eagles' perspective, I wouldn't look at this as the cure-all, but this is as good of a move as you can make at this position in Week 14. It's not as if you're going to find 28-year-old, 3-time All-Pros walking around. He's as good of an upgrade as they can find at this point, and I think he'll be a factor this weekend against Dallas.
All right, let's take this in two parts. Let's start with how this all came together, because you asked a good question to Nick Sirianni in the press conference that we just wrapped up about all the connections here between these two franchises. You know, how much was Nick Sirianni able to do some digging and talk to Shane Steichen about why it was that they were moving on from Shaq Leonard? Let's start with that. How did it all come together?
Yeah, and it's a tip of the cap to you. Something that, in my 5 years working with you, you always kind of ask me whenever the Eagles sign someone or trade someone, well, why did the other team let him go? And it's the first thing you need to think about, right? So in that case, Nick Sirianni has as close of connections to Indianapolis as any organization. He worked there, obviously, so he knows people in that building, on that defensive staff. And then Shane Steichen, his former assistant's the head coach there. So he would have intel on what happened there. And Nick said he did his work. He spoke to Shane. He spoke to members of the defensive staff. He got a sense of that situation. But he also pointed out that he's not doing this secondhand. He has personal history. And he gave the anecdote when he FaceTimed Shaq Leonard last week. He gave the phone to Kevin Patullo. He gave the phone to Jason Michael. He gave the phone to Marcus Brady. And he pointed this out as a way of saying there are people in the Eagles building who know Shaq Leonard well, who've seen him firsthand, who've been around him day to day. And Nick Sirianni's confident that he can still play. Nick Sirianni's confident that he can be a leader in that locker room, that he can fit within kind of the culture that the Eagles are trying to create. And it's interesting to to a question you asked Nick last week, and then to a question that came up today as well. One thing that Nick keeps pointing out is length. And this seems to be something that they really value. And you gave the measurements last week about
Same arm length as Zach Cunningham.
Yeah, so when you have Zach Cunningham and Shaq Leonard on the field together, which I imagine they will at some point, it really is like that Syracuse zone defense, right? That you have to pass over and around, and that can be hard to do with two guys with 34-inch arms. I
found one part of his relaying of that story confusing because he mentioned the FaceTime, and it sounded like he said pass the phone, but then he also said gave the computer to Kevin Patullo. Did you think if you had to guess, are we talking a laptop or a phone here? What do you think?
I'm guessing an iPad. So
you think it's in between? He didn't even say tablet, but you're splitting the difference.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if so. I am a FaceTime on the laptop guy. Okay. I like most things on. I'm a better texter on the laptop. I'm a better
famously so.
Yeah, better FaceTimer on the laptop. So I prefer the laptop. Now I'm wondering though. I mean, not to get too into the weeds, but
let's weed it up.
But the NFL is not often like an Apple ecosystem.
That's true.
Right? So in order to FaceTime on the laptop, you need to be a Mac user as opposed to, and that's not the typical NFL.
They've got that Microsoft Teams, like that Surface deal.
So I am curious now because it's a heavy iPhone family, a heavy iPhone group. If you're texting people in the NFL,
this would be interesting because it would mean that there has been some machine learning going on in Nick Sirianni in not crossing the lines of what the sponsors are. Remember, famously last year he mentioned the wrong pizza place, not the one that the Eagles have as the official sponsor.
But if you're
is it Pizza Hut when it's supposed to be Little Caesars?
Exactly. Yeah. Or maybe Domino's when it was supposed to be Little Caesars. But if you're texting with people in the NFL, you're getting the blue and not the green, right? So they're iPhone users. But so I'm curious about passing the computer or passing the laptop. The other thing,
are there any Bermans who are green in like the family chat? Is there somebody who stands out?
There was for a long time, but they came to their wits, and now
you shamed him. Who was it?
Yeah, Matt and Alex at one point.
Really?
Or
double teaming.
But
my brother sticks with the green, and I mean, not only do you get the green, but like if you're sending a video, it also ruins the formatting of the video. What are we doing, John?
Seriously, John, I have a world of respect for you, but you got to go blue.
The first thing that you're anti-John now.
First thing, that really is actually the first thing. But no, now the other thing is maybe it wasn't FaceTime. Maybe it was Zoom on the computer.
Yeah.
And he just conflates.
It could have been two separate incidences. It could have been he was doing the FaceTime. He happened to be with Marcus Brady, but then later they were doing a Zoom to talk through some stuff, and there comes Kevin Patullo.
Or maybe it was just all the communication was Zoom, and he conflated Zoom and FaceTime because that's a common thing sometimes. Sure. I worked with someone one time who conflated texting with DMing too, right? So
dangerous.
Staying far away from that one. But yeah, so as I think about it, they might have just been Zooming with each other.
That's possible. I think this is maybe the best bit of content we've done since coming over to PHLY.
I'm not quite sure about that, but certainly we've done worse than this. So this is
all right. Let's take it on the second part here. Mm-hmm. Christian Ellis and Nicholas Morrow played all those snaps yesterday.
Your boy.
I think yesterday played out well for my boy.
You watched one TFL.
But you watched that game and you thought he was the problem of the two linebackers?
I mean, that's like
all I've been saying is that I think he should be on the field over Nicholas Morrow. Did you not watch the game yesterday and think Nicholas Morrow is the one who is the real problem here?
I mean, come on.
I mean, I'm not saying Christian Ellis was playing a great game, but like that was exactly what I've been talking about.
Yeah, I look, if your position here is that yesterday was a good Christian Ellis day, then
I mean, he did make the literal only good play of the game for the defense. Yes, that's not true. Fletcher Cox had a sack,
and Sidney Brown had a good.
Sidney
TFL.
Brown did have a good play. The pass rush showed up for the first 6 plays of the game. But.
Yes, so there were about 6 or 7 good plays. No, look, I hear what you're saying, and Nick Sirianni did, by the way, defend. Christian Ellis. He
said, it was weird. He didn't mention Morrow.
He didn't mention Morrow.
He said he likes the depth of the linebackers. He thought Christian Ellis played well yesterday and didn't say anything about Morrow. Now, in his defense, I think he was saying that because Ellis is the depth guy because Morrow has been playing. But we all saw what Nicholas Morrow did yesterday. I mean, that was as bad of an individual linebacker game as I've ever seen. Understanding that is the best offense in the league and an offense that is designed to exploit. Even good linebackers.
Yes. No,
so anyway,
you're absolutely correct.
My question for you here is, one, Zach Cunningham remains the top guy at linebacker among the healthy players. Nakobe Dean is now out for the season. He said so himself. Zach Cunningham wasn't placed on injured reserve, so they expect him back at some point relatively soon. Do you think that Shaq Leonard is coming in to be, let's say it's him and he's the number 2 now? Is that sort of your guess?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I think Shaq Leonard is here.
And how quickly do you think he can get ramped up?
Well, I think he'll play Sunday against Dallas. And I think eventually it's going to be Shaq Leonard and Zach Cunningham out there. Now, that's not to say that Nicholas Morrow won't play this weekend because I don't know if Cunningham's going to be back. Cunningham didn't practice at all last week. And so if it's Morrow and Leonard this week, and that's why I think he referenced Christian Ellis, because I think at least in kind of the short term, Shaq Leonard takes Christian Ellis's role. I think Morrow will stay out there, but then I do think it's going to be it's going to be Leonard and it's going to be Zach Cunningham, and those are going to be your linebackers in the postseason. And if the Eagles make a run, and by the way, like those are two. That's like a light version of Sue and Joseph, right?
Yes.
Those are 2 guys who've been big time players in this league, like major contract players, near top of the league in their position. In Leonard's case, top of the league, and Cunningham certainly, in the upper echelon. So it's a few years too late, right? But if you took a poll of like AFC South coaches 4 years ago, and you said there's a linebacking core with Zach Cunningham and Shaq Leonard, that would keep a lot of offensive coaches up at night.
I would. I mean, there are a few little differences, but I think the similarity is, that those signings happened last year after the Commanders game when they got run over. It was like very quickly, this is the thing that we can do. This is the button we can press. It's similar to with the Shaq Leonard signing. I mean, Dominican Sue and Linval Joseph, like those guys had rings.
True.
These guys, not necessarily what have Shaq Leonard and Zach Cunningham done, but it's not like you're going out and getting Ray Lewis.
It's ring culture, huh?
A little bit.
So now to the question that you asked, so I see Shaq Leonard taking that role. Yeah, I think that's why Shaq Leonard signed. Now, I haven't spoken to Shaq Leonard yet. Looking forward to catching up with him Wednesday, and we'll have what he says on allphly.com. I know there's interest from the audience, but he had a choice between Dallas and the Eagles, and he would have played on Dallas too. But I think there's just more of that opportunity in Philly. If he wants 2 things here, I imagine, because this decision couldn't have been about money because he's getting paid by Indianapolis, right? So there's 2 things. A, you're looking for a chance to win, which both teams offer, and B, you're looking for a chance to kind of resurrect your career or rebuild your career, rebuild your value. He's going to be a free agent at the end of the season, right? So he probably thinks there's a better chance of doing that in Philly. And like if you want the best case scenario here, the historical precedent for how this could work is Jeremiah Trotter in 2004 when the football team who was previously in Washington, or the previous nickname for the Washington
team. They've never
team,
been in Washington.
Actually, they were always in Washington when they were at RFK Stadium.
Okay.
So Not until 1997 did they move to Landover or thereabouts. So in any event, when Jeremiah Trotter got cut by Washington and famously called Andy Reid was on a fishing trip in the outskirts of Utah, I believe, didn't have good cell phone reception.
Feels very fresh in your memory for some reason.
But Trotter and Andy Reid kind of patch up the way that ended. But Trotter comes in anyways, and he's kind of like a backup for the first 8 weeks of the season. Mid-season, goes into the lineup and becomes the Jeremiah Trotter from before. Becomes like a Pro Bowl player for the Eagles. Was huge during that playoff run. That's kind of what you're hoping Shaq Leonard is here. That
not the 2009 Jeremiah Trotter return.
Definitely not the 2009 Jeremiah Trotter return. No, the 2004 Jeremiah Trotter return, where the change of scenery, the injuries are past him, he's playing with talented players around him, and he kind of looks the way he did before. I mean, Shaq Leonard, I'm talking about him like he's past his prime. He's 28 years old, right? There's still a chance here that he can be a good contributing linebacker.
I mean, I don't want to be Debbie Downer here, but there's a reason that he's on the street. He's had back injuries for the last several years. You can sell yourself on the reason that he needed to leave Indianapolis is because, as you said, he was the guy who was the face of the franchise. And if he's going to be the third linebacker all of a sudden, you're dealing with some ego bruising and you sort of want to move on. But the truth is, he doesn't have to be good for him to be an improvement for the Eagles. He just needs to be better than Nicholas Morrow. And I think there's a reasonable expectation that he can be better than Nicholas Morrow. And so it's totally fine. I just don't think you're not getting that guy. You're not getting, this is not Julio Cumming. This is this guy's going to be out there and hopefully he doesn't miss a ton of tackles.
What's the opposite of Debbie Downer? Is there an OJ optimism or something? Or
you love going to OJ.
Well, what
is it with you and OJ?
What names begin with O? Othello optimism.
Ophelia.
And Othello optimism. Yeah, I remember Othello Harrington at Georgetown.
Yeah.
So Othello optimism.
Opie.
Do you know any Opies?
I don't know. How many OJs do you know?
Well, the first O name that comes to mind is OJ. OJ Howard.
Yes, of course. Famously, the most famous OJ is OJ Howard.
OJ Mayo. I mean, do you want me to keep going? Certainly.
I just say, I'm a little bit worried for the people close to you that you're so obsessed with OJ.
Why are you so fixated on OJ Simpson? How do you know I wasn't just a big USC basketball fan when OJ Mayo was there? Top
I do
10
believe
pick.
that.
And then OJ Howard, I loved him at the Senior Bowl, and when Tampa Bay drafted him, I thought that was going to be a steal.
No surprise.
So there's certainly more than one OJ in this world, right? But anyways, the OJ optimism or the Othello optimism, if you're the Debbie Downer, I'll be the Othello optimism, which is, here, Claire F. says Orvis. I like that. The Orvis optimism.
Orvis?
Yes.
I like Otis. I like Otis better.
Okay, Otis. That's a good one. Otis optimism, okay? The Otis optimisms of
I think it would be Otis optimist.
Okay, okay. Otis optimist here is that two good organizations are fighting over this guy, right? So you're saying there's a reason why he's on the street. I would say
you can't use yourself being a good organization as support for you going after him.
No, okay.
It's we're a good organization. We're doing it. It must be right.
Okay, no. My point is this. Yes, he's on the street.
But it's the same thing as what you're. It's
waivers.
week 14. There's only so many so many buttons you can press. He's a linebacker who's available. If you need a linebacker, I'm not saying this is a bad move. I'm just saying let's set the expectations correctly.
Sure, and that was the premise of my question to Nick. But you're so fixated on
the fact... Otis optimist, this is Jeremiah Trotter in 2004.
No, you're so fixated on the fact that he was available. I'm saying, why not look at it there are multiple people asking him to the prom here, right?
But you're saying... There's one other team. You can't say multiple people when you're one of the two.
You're the guy saying she doesn't have a prom date. I'm the guy saying there's two people asking her. So
all right. We don't need to get Ronald Goldman involved all of a sudden.
Okay.
All right. Well, if you want to be an Otis optimist yourself, let me tell you about Our new sponsor, the Pennsylvania Dairy Farmers and Team Chocolate Milk. Professional and college athletes have known about the power of chocolate milk as a refuel and recovery beverage for a long time. Chocolate milk provides high-quality protein for muscle repair, electrolytes for hydration, and calcium for strong bones. That's why studies consistently show that chocolate milk is an ideal sports recovery beverage. Whether you're recovering after a workout at the gym, a run around Boathouse Row, or a bike ride on the Schuylkill Trail, chocolate milk is an ideal post-workout beverage. Taking care of your body doesn't end when the clock hits zero. On your workout routine, give your body what it needs to properly recover. What could be better than a scientifically proven recovery beverage made right here in the beautiful Commonwealth of Pennsylvania? Plus, it tastes great. Learn more about how chocolate milk can help you refuel and recover after your next workout by visiting teamchocolatemilk.com.
And then let me tell you this. On Friday after work, I get back home and I have a box of cards courtesy of Vince. Thank you, Vince. And I give them to my son, and he is in heaven opening these things up, and he's asking about every single player. And if you like cards like this, there's only one place in the Delaware Valley where you should go to get them, and that's Wheelhouse. Wheelhouse is our go-to sports card, gift and apparel shop in the Delaware Valley. Their motto is cards and community because love of sports unites us all. They carry all your favorite card brands like Topps Chrome Baseball and Mosaic Football, as well as t-shirts, hats, hoodies from brands like Mitchell & Ness, 47 Brand, Junk Food Starter, and Shibe Vintage Sports. If you're looking to grade your sports card collection, Wheelhouse offers PSA grading submissions. They also host tons of different family-friendly events and birthday parties every month. Stop in either of their stores in Wayne or Westchester, open 7 days per week at 11 a.m. Use code PHLY and get $10 off any purchase of $25 or more in store. Also, be sure to give them a follow on Instagram at Wheelhouse Cards.
All right, Zach. Let's stick on the defense because obviously the defense is the side of the ball that deserves the most attention after their performance yesterday against the San Francisco 49ers. Is it as simple as, in your mind, the linebackers are bad? Or if you are trying to parse blame and try to figure out what went wrong and how much of a concern this all is, what are the things that are going on through your head?
Well, all right, so a few things here. It's not like they played with new linebackers, right? I mean, this is the same linebackers that they went 10-1 with. Now, not totally. Of course, they didn't have Zach Cunningham.
Right.
Okay, so Zach Cunningham makes a difference. They had Nakobe Dean. My point is this.
But right, if Zach Cunningham is worth 30 points, then you got a different problem.
So I know it's not literally the same group. My point is this: we identified last week's shows. They're all on YouTube. Go back, click on them, get those views up. Right, you can see we talked about this last week that the matchup against San Francisco's offense was going to be particularly problematic. And it was especially problematic. So I don't overreact because
Devon walking out, the big new addition today, Devon Givens on PHLY.
I'm pumped. I used to listen to Devon's show. I'm thrilled that I can listen to him every day on PHLY and watch him every day on PHLY. So
I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No problem. So I think this was a tough matchup, and not every game is going to be Kyle Shanahan's play calling and Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle. And
although certainly Dak does like to throw the ball over the middle of the field.
Yeah. So now Dallas is a problem there too, and what you worry about is the teams that you need to beat to get to the Super Bowl are going to be able to beat you this way. The teams that will get you the top seed, you can beat like you'll be able to beat the Giants with these linebackers.
Yes.
You'll be able to beat the Cardinals with these linebackers. You've been able to go 10-1 with a group of, I keep hearing this is Howie Roseman's fault for the way the roster is built. Like they went 10-1 with these linebackers.
Well, let's get into the roster construction. Okay. But
yeah, so when I look at this game, I say it was a bad matchup. We know the Eagles don't have good linebackers. We know they don't invest there. We know that they were undermanned going into this game. But I think it's kind of the deal with the devil, if you will, or the deal you make when you kind of build a roster the way they do. You know you're going to be shorthanded at certain spots. or you're not going to invest in certain spots, and linebacker is one of them. So we can go through some of the decisions they made this offseason, but you knew going into the year, like, it's not a surprise to me that we're sitting here in December talking about the linebackers, because we talked about them in August. We talked about them in May. We talked about them in March, right? Like, they let TJ Edwards leave. They let Kaiser White leave, and they signed Nicholas Morrow to like very little guaranteed money, right? They signed Zach Cunningham and Miles Jack on the same day in August. They did not draft a linebacker. Their whole plan was for Nakobe Dean, who, like you said, did not beat out, or as you've said, I should say, did not beat out either Edwards or White last year, for Nakobe Dean to be their top guy. Nicholas Morrow did not make the 53-man roster. Christian Ellis made the team for depth purposes, not to play. So the Eagles, like, this is the way they build it. They know that their linebackers are going to be what they are, and you better have a darn good front and a darn good secondary, because you're going to have to live with the linebackers.
Well, what you just said is I think the problem.
Wait, I see in the chat we cut Morrow. Is that
interesting? That would explain why Nick Sirianni made a point of saying that Christian Ellis,
I don't know if that's
had a good game, but did not mention Nicholas Morrow in the game.
I have not seen that. I have not seen that yet.
So we'll wait and see.
Yes.
On that. They don't have to even add Cunningham or Shaq Leonard to the active roster necessarily.
Yes.
They can play the practice squad game with him.
Exactly.
We'll see what number does he wear? Who are they going to have to cut to give him his number?
Well, we'll see what number he's going to wear here. We'll see what numbers are available, because
he won't be on the roster yet because it's agreed to terms, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they're not going to cut Christian Ellis, obviously, so he's not going to get 53.
He was 53. That's what I didn't know what number.
Yeah, he was 53. Okay. So the numbers that are available would be 54. Sean Bradley. I don't know what the Sean Bradley situation is. Like, you don't have to cut it. I don't know. 58 is so Ike Reese will be happy about that. You can wear 58. 59 is available. And let's see what practice squad guys are wearing what numbers. This is
we don't necessarily have to get to just say all the numbers from 0 to 99, but that's okay.
Okay.
All right. I think what you had just finished on, that if your linebackers are going to be this bad, and actually I want to get into the actual plan of attack at linebacker, because I think there are some things that you can take fault with, but it does fall in line with what we know that they do. But they are getting what they paid for at linebacker.
You're right.
They are not getting what they paid for at either of the other spots. Okay, the defensive line, which they have poured so many resources into. You know, we talked about it before. Like, before they cut Derek Barnett, there were 9 first-round picks in the top 9 in the rotation on the defensive line.
That's a good stat.
Okay, yeah. They are not getting what they paid for there. The defensive line, the Eagles rank 22nd in the league in sacks per pass attempt right now. Okay. And the run defense has been very good and better than it was last year, although it wasn't as good yesterday. And they're also having to lean much more on Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick than they have in years past. The defensive line is not providing what they have invested them to provide. And even worse, the secondary, where they are paying Darius Slay and James Bradbury a lot of money, and they have even, they have said that was not their plan A heading into free agency last year. They were surprised that it worked out such that they ended up bringing back both Slay and Bradbury at 30 years, at both over 30. But those guys are not playing at the level that they are being paid to play at. And so, yes, the linebackers are the worst group on the field, but why is this defense right now a bottom 3rd unit in the league by most statistical measures? It's because they're not getting what they paid for at defensive line and at cornerback. Like, those are bigger problems structurally for a team that fancies itself a Super Bowl contender. They're not going to get there if those guys are playing at that level.
Good point. Certainly the sacks are not there. Now there's a few. They're playing from behind more this year, so that would be a contributing factor. But that's certainly
why they're not as good as they were last year. But 22nd in the league in sack rate. Like,
it's a good point. So this is where you look at the numbers and the eye test. When I watch the game, and then when I go back and watch it, like, Sweat and Reddick are getting productive rushes every week. They're getting to the quarterback.
Well, they better be. They're on the field 80% of the time.
That's a good point. Yeah. So the depth has definitely been a concern there. But I am with you in terms of the secondary. The corners are not playing well enough. The corners are giving up too many yards, are giving up too many plays. We knew now Kevin Byard hasn't been the solution at safety. I think he's been better than Terrell Edmonds. But
I'd say so.
But overall, for what you're paying for Slay and Bradbury, you're expecting those guys.
I mean, the level of play Kevin Byard has given you to Opie Optimist that's the best case scenario for Shaq Leonard. That the improvement level of Byard over Edmonds is what you can get from Leonard over Morrow.
And you would take that for sure.
Yeah.
So Slay and Brad, like, I'm not an overreactor in general in life, but especially not in football.
Overanalyzer, but not overreactor.
I'm definitely an overanalyzer, but I'm not an overreactor. I'm guilty of overanalyzing for sure. So when I see this, like I'm going through my head, and I see these games in my head these plays when Slay and Bradbury independently have played well, and I don't want to look at one game when San Francisco destroys the Eagles, embarrasses them, humiliates them. Pick the verb you want to use, and say, well, this is who they are. But the flip side is, like, if you want to play in February, that's the curve you're graded upon.
Yes.
Like, these are the teams you have to beat. It's not enough. And now, I know you push back, or you can push back. The viewer can push back and say that they beat Kansas City, and they beat Buffalo, and they beat Dallas. Like, they've beaten better teams this year than they did last year. But last year, when I look at it, like, they were destroyed. What they did to San Francisco, or what San Francisco did to them yesterday, they did like every week to opponents last year. And they obviously have not done that this season. So, yeah, clearly the pass defense. But then situationally, I look at it like, is it just talent, or why is third down an issue? Why is red zone an issue? And not getting sacks certainly contributes to that, right? When teams are in third down, why aren't you getting home? Why, and it's the edge guys, it's the interior guys. And to your point, this is where pressure rate can be misleading, because the Eagles will put out there that Sweat and Reddick are like top 2 in the league in pressures.
Yeah, don't care.
Right? But this is where, and I remember having a conversation with a former defensive coordinator in Philadelphia about this.
Big flex?
Mild flex. Mild flex. Not a big thing. If it was a head coach, that'd be a big flex. Like, okay. But this is a mild flex.
But you know what? Now it's actually a bigger flex to say that it's just a mild flex that you were talking to a defensive coordinator, because now you're saying that, only talking to a defensive coordinator, that's barely worth my time.
No, certainly not. Everyone's worth my time. Quality control coach is worth my time. Anyone, everyone. I took I took the elevator down to meet up with a listener yesterday. A viewer. Appreciate it. That was worth my time. Like, so everyone's worth my time. Like, I hope I'm worth other people's time too. But anyways, I was speaking.
We hope you are worth people's time for approximately 60 minutes 5 times a week.
Yes,
at least.
Yeah. So I was saying that sacks are negative play. I was arguing the merits of sacks, because he was telling me sacks are overrated, and I was saying sacks are negative plays. Like that, yeah. If you get a pressure and the quarterback gets the ball off, that's not doing you any good. Now, maybe that's an incompletion and you punt the ball, but when you sack someone, I know they're on the ground. I know there's a loss, and so
well, it's a huge difference. Yeah,
yeah. So
I also pressures are just it's quarterback hit is a definitive thing that you have done. A pressure is not.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead, finish your point.
So yeah, they're not getting enough sacks, and that is a contributing factor for why they're not getting off the field on third down, and for why they are allowing touchdowns in the red zone. And
right now, to your point, they rank dead last, 32nd in the league in third down defense, giving up first downs on 47.3% of third downs, and they are 29th in red zone defense, giving up 68% touchdowns in the red zone. This is like your nightmare scenario, your Mr. Situation. This is terrible.
Exactly. Those are like those are the two things I always harp on. Is can you get off the field, and can you make 4-point plays? And when I say 4-point plays, I mean, can you limit them to field goals when they're in position to score touchdowns? And if you want to know the merit of 4-point plays, look at what San Francisco did in the first quarter compared to what the Eagles did, right? Holding them, that game is totally, I said this on the show yesterday, that game's totally different if the Eagles are up 14-0.
It is, and there's no doubt that if they go up 14-0, or even if they force that 3-and-out on the third Niners possession when Darius Slay is playing off on 2nd and 15, which remains a big play in the game to me. Like the rest of the game was so demonstrative that I can't even really necessarily strongly believe that even if they were up 14-0, they were going to win that game. They were outclassed over the course of 60 minutes.
But this is where I go back to not overreacting, and I'll give a shout out to Mike Wise, who was a columnist at the Washington Post when I wrote there. And
not your Wise, not our Wise, but Mike Wise.
I never said that about him, but sure, yeah, Mike Wise. So I was kind of talking about how I want to cover the NFL, and I was covering college sports at the time, and I love covering the NFL. You know, I dreamed of covering the NFL, and he was talking about how, and I've used this expression to you before, how the great thing about covering the NFL is every week's a season, right? And like that is the truth. If you think about what the emotion was like in Philadelphia last. By the way, thank you to the listener. I don't have the name. I'll pull it up in my email, but defended me, the viewer / listener, because some people listen on Spotify, some people watch or on whatever app, and then some people watch us. But he said that I should lean into my accent, that I say Philadelphia the way people in Philadelphia say it, right? So he was like, he was like, you speak normal to me, and I appreciated that. So thank you for that. In any event. If you think about Monday morning last week and the excitement after that Bills game and everything, I'm sure people's Monday morning coffee tasted great. I'm sure the day at work was fun. All these things. And now like today, the sky is falling, the season, like the world is ending. It's so, that's the nature of the NFL, is that every week is a season, and not to give the old cliche, but they weren't as good as they seemed to be after that Bills game, and they're not as bad as they seem to be after the Niners game.
All right. Well, if you want to see how next season's week is going to turn out, and you want to, make a little trip to Arlington, let's say you're dear DFOP Ed, and you want to grab a couple doses and check out the Eagles and the Cowboys, well, you might want to pull up your Game Time app, because buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. They've got flash deals and last-minute tickets, easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area, images of seat views, lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, and more. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Get images of your seat before you buy. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds, just
2 taps.
And you're set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through your email. Tickets make great holiday gifts. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
But to answer the question that you asked in that previous segment, because I might have taken the conversation astray, and I thought you framed it well. I have more questions about the defensive front and the secondary than the linebackers. I don't have an issue with this roster construction. I don't have an issue with this roster construction because there's a 2-decade-plus sample size here of them having a lot of winning seasons, undervaluing or not valuing the linebacker spot, or putting their resources on the defensive front and the corners. I saw them win a Super Bowl with Donnell Ellerbe as like a starting linebacker. Now that's one of their top 3 linebackers. It was Kendricks and Bradham as the top 2.
It was also Bradham playing at a very high level.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. But Bradham's someone that they signed, to not a similar deal as like a Cunningham, but he was not a heavily pursued free agent. They got him at a low. They found ways to supplement that position. The reason Jeremiah Trotter signed with Washington after he was an all-pro player in Philadelphia, homegrown player, heartbeat of that defense, is because philosophically this organization was not going to pay a linebacker that money. And it's been their approach consistently. They did trade for D'Amico Ryans. So that was the kind of like the most resources that they've invested in the position. They've taken guys in the second round, famously Kendricks. Quentin Caver, I believe, might have been a second-round pick.
It's a long time ago.
Barry Gardner, I believe, was a second-round pick.
Let's stick to at least that. Howie Roseman has a long enough track record. We can stick to Howie Roseman's tenure.
I'm looking at from 99 on. From like I point to 99 from like the Andy Reid era on is when this philosophy came about. I think before that the approach was a little different. So from 99 on, this is how they kind of treated that position.
Well, I think if there is now, I think we can say like they could have signed a different linebacker than Nicholas Morrow in the spring. They could have brought in a few other guys along the way, if you're throwing stuff at the wall. But I think if there is a failure of the Eagles' roster construction at linebacker, to me it is a self-scouting one, because I think there are 2 things you could point to.
Okay.
One is by last offseason, it was too late. They had TJ Edwards in the building for a long time. They kept not letting him play. Like, he kept having to re-win his spot. You could have signed him to an extension after year 3. That would have been extremely reasonable.
Okay.
Right? And then you'd still have him here.
Yeah.
He is a young player still. The other one is you had Nakobe Dean in the building for a year. You used a 3rd-round pick on him. They planned their entire offseason linebacker strategy on Nakobe Dean being able to step in and be not just good, but like be a very good linebacker, be the linebacker. And not only did he get injured twice, which maybe that's bad luck, maybe that's part of the reason that he fell in the first place, because he was relatively slight for the position. But when he was on the field, he wasn't making a difference. So I think there is maybe a clear-headedness with who is in the building that they have not been perfect with.
You're absolutely right, and I can't disagree with you. You hit it on the head. This is a position where, as someone once explained to me, they need to trust their coaching and their scouting. And last year, to their credit, their coaching and their scouting did a really good job. In that TJ Edwards developed, and Kaiser White was a solid signing. And their pro scouting department did a good job, and their coaching and their coaching staff did a good job developing TJ Edwards. The Nakobe Dean thing, you're right on about. They built this around Nakobe Dean. They purposely did not bring competition in for Nakobe Dean because they wanted Nakobe Dean to be the starter. They let Kaiser White and TJ Edwards walk. And I probably wouldn't have paid TJ Edwards that contract, but he's
probably not. Yeah, but it's not a terrible comp. Like, would you rather have James Bradbury or TJ Edwards and Patrick Peterson? Patrick Peterson is 33. Like, that's not a great bet either, but it's about half the price.
It's a fair question. I mean, given the way that the season's gone, I'd probably rather TJ Edwards, but I thought James Bradbury.
But even at the time, I probably would not have said that.
Yeah. That's a fair
question.
The
time to have signed Edwards would have been before last year.
So when I was prepping for the show, I was looking at it from a different perspective, and I want to turn this on to you in that part of this is you need to keep taking lottery tickets in the draft and hoping that you find someone. They did not draft a linebacker this year. And they've only drafted now they drafted 2 years ago, I guess Kyron Johnson, he's kind of like a hybrid type.
Yeah, but that's not really what they drafted him for.
Yeah. But so Nakobe Dean's really like the only meaningful linebacker that they drafted.
Right. Sean Bradley 3 years ago.
Yeah. So
Nate Gary before that.
Yeah,
and Davion Taylor, obviously.
So should they have drafted someone like Trenton Simpson this year, or
well, that's the other like sliding doors you could do. Let's say instead of Bradbury, they paid for C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and then that 3rd round pick on Sidney Brown is a corner or a linebacker or something like that. I'm kind of with you. I thought that they would use a late round pick on a linebacker this year, and no shade to Ben Van Sumeren, who they gave a good amount of money to, and is now done enough on special teams to be elevated to the active roster. But it's not like they brought in several undrafted linebackers like they have done at positions of need in the past. I think it is fair to say that they did not throw enough at the wall at the position this offseason. You're
absolutely right. And that's where I kind of fault them is that the Moro Ojimo pick, now that's a 7th round pick. That's the same as you're going to sign on the undrafted market, but maybe that's a linebacker, or the Keely Ringo pick. Maybe that's a linebacker, right? So if you're going to play this game where you're not going to spend your free agent dollars and you're not going to use your 1st and 2nd round picks really on linebackers, then take more stabs in the draft. Try to find. We've seen that it's a position that you can find late day 2, on day 3, and find contributing players, and they have not done that. And that goes back to how you're scouting, and they've made some weird picks that didn't work. But I'll say this too. The other thing I was thinking about is it's going to sound like I'm defending them here. It's not. That's not the case. When I was watching this game back, I said, you know what, the Davion Taylor pick makes more sense to me when I was watching this game back, because the Eagles looked slow.
They look very slow.
But
they've got like half the guys in the field are over 30.
Yeah, true. But I can see why you take a dart throw on traits. Now, maybe not in the 3rd round. Maybe that's like in the 4th or 5th, whatever. But my point is that like there's a part of me that said if he just had more speed on the field, it looked to me, and again, I'm not a coach, but an adjustment that the 49ers made is they were just going to start attacking the perimeter. When after that 2nd drive, going into that 3rd drive, you saw a lot more misdirection. You saw them spread the Eagles out horizontally and take advantage of the lack of speed that the Eagles had. And I thought that was really a turning point in the game.
A couple of things. I think that like there are a lot of Monday mornings spent after playing the San Francisco 49ers where an entire fan base is bemoaning the linebackers. Like that is what they do. So you got to give them credit. And we already know that the Eagles linebackers are not very good. My general position for drafting linebackers is that like going traits rarely works because it's a position where instincts are so important.
As we saw with TJ Edwards. Yeah.
As we saw with Davion Taylor. Like I and maybe this is confirmation bias to what my opinion is, but I feel like there are many more examples of players who were dinged for athleticism but had a long track record of production in college who end up overperforming their draft slots. Fred Warner being one of them.
Sure.
But that's not the thing that we need to get into the weeds on today. I think I remain long-term into the playoffs. What is more concerning? I think you need more out of the pass rush in the secondary. And like, I don't want to make this just about Nolan Smith, but another game in which he just plays 11 snaps. You know, this is a 1st round pick that you used on a player expecting to contribute. And, you know, there was this pushback from within the Eagles building about at the trade deadline, why would we possibly be interested in another edge rusher? We've got this guy who's coming in and going to be a bigger part of the rotation. We're going to release Derek Barnett. We don't need these guys. He's still not playing.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me.
I am with you there.
I think there is maybe, and can also be tabled for the offseason if we want, but I think if there is a lesson that you're going to maybe internalize for the Eagles after the past couple drafts, for Nolan. Nolan Smith has a long career ahead of him. Where I'm not burying the guy. Nakobe Dean and Keely Ringo. It's hard to believe that you're really outsmarting the league with such high-profile players. Yeah. Right? Like these guys who everybody knows about and don't have glaring red flags. It's hard. Like it's not like everybody doesn't know about them. You're not outsmarting anybody on those picks.
You're right. I can't disagree with you there. You are absolutely correct. But sometimes though, it's not that you're out. It's not that you're outsmarting them. It's that sometimes teams outsmart themselves, right? Sometimes
but it's rare that all 31 teams outsmart themselves.
No, that's true. But as an example, and this might be low hanging fruit here because I'm not watching a lot of Raiders games this year. But like Tyree Wilson, for instance, is not producing this year, correct? It's hard to think that a team drafted Tyree Wilson over like Jalen Carter, right?
Sure, but I think that's much more easily explained. No, it's different when there is an obvious reason that teams are passing on a guy.
But real quick, what was your if you remember your draft view on Henry To'o?
I would have to look it up. I don't have that committed to memory.
Okay, because that's just he's a 5th round pick. Actually he went to Tennessee and Bama, right? Big time recruit, but he's someone he started for the Texans. So that's a player. That's a middle round linebacker who is he's on IR now, but
had a 4th round grade on him.
You had a 4th round grade on him. Yeah. Okay. And he went in the 5th round. You see, this is why your Google Sheets are terrific. But that's an example of someone that maybe you could have taken. You didn't have to make some of the trades you did. You take him in the 4th or 5th round, and he's competing for linebacker right now.
All right. Well, if you're not Henry To'o and you want to be Henry Foco, it's a good time to talk about Foco, which is a leading manufacturer of sports and entertainment merchandise with a product line that includes apparel, accessories, toys, collectibles, novelty items, and more. It's the best officially licensed gear for all sports and fandoms. It's football and tailgating season. You've got overalls, hoodies, hats, sunglasses, bags, everything you need for a game. Foco has hooked PHLY up and provided awesome pieces for our sets. Foco always has our back for Philly sports, and they have yours too. Get the best gear around by using the link in our description. For all non-presale items, use the promo code PHLY10 for 10% off. Zach, we haven't spent much time at all talking about the offense. We've only got a few minutes left on the show, but I'm curious how much blame do you put on them? And I guess how much of the Sirianni decision-making is still lingering with you a day later?
Oh, well, the decision to punt there, I didn't like it then. I didn't like it when I reviewed the game today. I thought it was a weak call.
I hated it.
I thought it was a weak call. I thought it was a weak explanation. I did not see it's not like a second guessing thing. I said it at the time. Like, why are they doing this? Why are they giving them the ball here?
I feel like it is also intellectually at odds with the other big thing that I complain about in this game, which is keeping the guys in at the end of the game. Mm-hmm. Like, if you think that you still have a chance to win the game at every point in the game and you're still fighting, then go for it.
Yeah.
Don't punt the ball away. And it's the same thing that happened in the Super Bowl. He's not paying attention to the defense cannot stop the offense right now. Do not give them the ball back. Your chance to win this game is to keep the ball. Go for it. It's 3 yards.
I agree with you there. Now, I'm less perturbed by the keeping the guys in the game part. But this isn't like...
Well, you're not DeAndre Swift's family watching him get lit up for no reason.
I mean, I think there's false equivalency there. That like somehow I'm saying it's okay that DeAndre Swift got hit in the head. There are only so many guys to play, So basically, what you're saying is it's okay if Kenny Gainwell gets lit up, but it's not okay if
as the coach of the team, yes, that's your job to prioritize that stuff. It's the same. This is the team that like they have Wednesday walkthroughs all season long. Yeah. Everything is about the health of the players.
Yeah. No, I see your point. I didn't understand why they were in the game, but that didn't stick out to me as much. I'm looking at more like your odds of winning the game. I thought were not helped by that punt. Overall on offense, I did not think Jalen Hurts had a good game. I thought there were, and Jamie asked me this in the postgame show, I thought he held on to the ball quite a bit. But I thought the receivers played really well. I thought they were open a lot. I thought they made good catches, and I thought when I went back and watched, and again, I didn't see the all 22. I just saw the TV copy, but I thought AJ and Devontae were just like, if you want.
It was a bummer that they wasted. Those guys were both fully fully fired up for that game.
And I thought the opening script was really good. Like, they got AJ Brown the ball in space, and you saw the yards after catch. You want to see more of that. I thought Devontae made some really tough catches for the Eagles. And I guess the reason that, like, if you want to feel good this morning, and or it's not even this morning anymore. If you want to feel good today, it's that they're going to be the more talented team in most games they play. And in most weeks, you didn't see this yesterday, in most weeks they should be able to score with you. Even if the defense is giving up points, like the way this team is designed, AJ and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert will have the edge in almost every matchup. Jalen Hurts is an MVP caliber quarterback. You want to see the running game more. I should say Nick Sirianni addressed today.
What did he say? Yeah.
The Kenny Gainwell had more snaps than DeAndre Swift. I don't think that should ever be the case. That was the case yesterday. Nick Sirianni said that was because Gainwell's role is in kind of the 2-minute, and they were in that 2-minute type offense quite a bit yesterday. I don't get why you can't have Swift in there. I didn't have as much of an issue with the pass run disparity as Jamie did. I explained why on the show, but to Jamie's defense and to the defense of people who have sent me emails and DMs and tweets that they should have run the ball more. When I think of the last 2 weeks, what got them sparked, it was a big DeAndre Swift run. And there were some 3-and-outs there when DeAndre Swift could have taken the ball 30 yards. So, but where if you want a glimmer of hope here or a reason for optimism, they're the more talented team in most games they play. And even when they're not the most, when the talent is near equal, they should be able to play like they did in the Super Bowl last year, where they can score into the 30s. And when they play a playoff game against Dallas or San Francisco, you need to have confidence that A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert give you an advantage every Sunday.
I think I'm worried that the offense doesn't have like that nuclear version that means that they can keep pace with any offense if the defense is playing like that.
Okay. But they had it last year. So what changed?
But that's the thing, is we keep everything, every Opie optimist feeling about this Eagles team is we saw it last year.
Yeah.
They did it last year. We saw that they're capable of this. It's been 12 games now. And listen, they're 10-2.
Yeah.
But that we have like all of the, you know, we can't at once say last year, like all of the advanced numbers are saying this is one of the best teams in football, and now they're 10-2, and the advanced numbers are not saying that. We don't believe it. Like, they are a very good team. They are not as good of a team as last year. They have not shown it, and we haven't seen that complete game in 12 games now.
Yeah.
And so, you know, maybe they can flip that switch, but the longer the season goes on, the bigger the sample size. When they haven't done that, the harder it is to believe.
You're correct.
And I think if we didn't have last year, I think everybody would be feeling a lot worse about this team right now.
You're correct. And, excuse me, I go back to Jalen Hurts. The way Jalen played in the second half and overtime against Buffalo was the way he played in the Super Bowl. Was the way he played last year, where he's making plays on like a drive-to-drive basis that you're just like, wow, there aren't that many people in the world who can do this. He hasn't done that enough this season. I think the Eagles would tell you that. Like, now he was injured for part of that, but what you want to see from Jalen is that second half or that fourth quarter and the overtime against Buffalo. You want to channel that. That's how he was against Kansas City. That's how he was for large portions of that 2022 season. And if he can play that way in December, the Eagles can beat anybody. If he doesn't play that way, the Eagles are going to have more games that look like yesterday.
And most likely, any road to the Super Bowl is probably going to be they're going to have to beat both the Cowboys and the Niners, right? Mm-hmm. And so we'll see what happens on Sunday. Before we close, Zach, let's quickly run through Goose Wisely.
Do we have
to? Your golden goose was on the 49ers convert, a 3rd and 11 plus. Didn't happen. Mm-hmm. They barely had. Yeah. They had 2 really behind the sticks. One didn't happen otherwise. I had Julio Jones has at least 10 yak. I think we know that did not happen. I put my golden goose on the Eagles allow their most points of the season, which was 34 plus. That happened. 2 for me. You had the Niners score their fewest points of the season. You had Christian Ellis is involved in a turnover. Didn't happen. I had Sam Darnold plays a snap. Didn't happen. You had the Eagles. Did he play a snap?
Yeah.
He did. He played at the end of the game?
Yeah. I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. 1 for me.
Yeah. Nice. I'm almost positive.
I appreciate your honesty.
Yeah. Nothing if not honest. And that's verifiable, correct?
It would be verifiable if you pull up the game book. Yep. You had the Eagles do not record a sack. Didn't happen. I had more than one 49ers player attempts a pass. Did Darnold throw a pass?
No, I think he just kneeled.
Okay. So that did not happen. I had...
He played 4 snaps.
There are offsetting personal fouls. Now, I mean, boy, should that one have counted, but you're not allowed to throw a flag, as you famously found out in the pool report.
By the way, an amendment to that.
I heard that, yes, please.
New York can't put the flag out there. So,
interesting. Yeah, I thought it was only for, after a play, a guy on the sideline can't get a flag.
Yeah, so basically they can't review the video and then levy a penalty from the video. They can eject you. They can eject you. They can tell the guy to leave the sideline. But New York.
Oh, but a ref on the field could have flagged Dom.
I believe so, or flagged the sideline.
Right.
Not
Dom it wouldn't have been Dom.
Yeah.
It would have been like a flag on a personal foul on the sideline. Okay,
yeah.
That makes much more sense. So unfortunately, you don't get that. I had the losing head coach whines in his post-game presser. I'm not going to give that to anybody. We had the head-to-head on who's going to have more combined yards, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith or Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel. You take that one home. Deebo and McCaffrey had 249, whereas A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith had 210. You had the winning team wins by 3 or fewer points. I had the winning team wins by 9 or more points. Obviously, that one goes to me. You had Nolan Smith plays a season high in snaps. Now, we did not say here whether a tie would count because he tied with 11. I think it's fair to give it to you since we didn't qualify it. I had Javon Hargrave has a sack. Didn't happen, but I take this one down. I go up 7-4 on the season. All is right with the world. But a good one.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Okay. And you know what else is going to be a good one, Zach?
My basketball game tonight?
Oh, are you excited? Did we have the draft?
Oh, yeah. I got my team.
Are you back with your old coach?
Yeah, well, back with my team, and I think they want me to take on more of a player coach role this year, which I interpret to mean please stay on the sideline a little more.
Oh no,
we need some more height on the court.
Oh geez.
But no, I mean I'll mix in there.
Now is it like a draft? Are the results of the draft published?
I don't think so.
Do we know where you went in the draft?
Oh, I don't know about that, but I think that I think our band's back together. We're but yeah, first game tonight.
What are the additions? What are the offseason additions we've made?
We got some more height, which we needed.
Okay.
We got some more shooting, which we needed. So I feel good about our team's chances this year.
Well, good luck tonight.
Thank you.
We look forward to the review tomorrow, and that's what I was alluding to when I said a good one is going to be tomorrow's show because we're going to have Fletcher Cox in studio after he guts it out to play in this game against the San Francisco 49ers, notches a sack. I thought he was probably the best player on the defensive line yesterday, but I'm not going to ask him to say that, but that was my opinion. We'll talk to him about that. He had some words for what the Eagles as a locker room need to do to rebound from that loss, so we'll talk about all of that stuff and preview the Cowboys game. Brian Baldinger joining us tomorrow as well, so we look forward to that. So for Zach Berman, for Julia, for all of us here at PHLY, we thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll talk to you tomorrow. And as always, we love you.
We all silly like the